Welcome to the Let's Go Ricky Roll podcast with Josh Thole, Beto Duran. Thanks to everybody who continues to support us every single week on iTunes, on Spotify, all that other good stuff on YouTube. Thole, you made an impression last week with the young man, Alan Trejo. You now know where Boyle Heights is at. You know where East Los Angeles is at. So much so that Ricky Romero had to go buy an East LA hat. Look what he's wearing right now for you, Thole. Just for you.
I'm still waiting for my East LA hat.
Ricky, imagine taking Thole to East LA.
I don't think he's right.
I'd fit right in. Are you kidding me?
You know what? He might, man. He might. Rick, how you feeling?
Good, man. Everything's good. Still lacking sleep with the new baby, but we're good.
And little baby's all right. That's good. Good to hear. Yeah. Good to hear. Thole, I know you're coaching, and I know you're a farmer. And dude, does your hair get a little tighter? It looks.
Yeah, that's why I'm a bit late, guys. It just got chopped up. My guy was really meticulous today. I said, I got 15 minutes. Let's make it happen.
Yeah,
took me right to the wire.
Yeah, right behind the scenes. I called Thole to, talk to him about the show a little bit. Show prep, right, Rick? Like pitchers and catchers. You guys go over the scouting report. I wanted to do this today. Tole's like, what did you say? You're getting what?
Getting chopped up.
I'm getting chopped up.
Yeah, that's the right terminology.
Yeah, so he says I'm getting chopped up. I don't know what that meant because remember, you're a farmer. So I didn't know if you're like maybe in the woods chopping wood or maybe that was your workout. Maybe, I don't know. And then you're like, yeah, And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm getting a haircut. Like this dude is like 15 minutes before the show, Rick. He's getting a haircut. He's ready for the people.
That's what I do for the people.
Yeah, it is. There it is.
He remembers Jordan MVP Barber.
MVP Barber. Give that guy a shout out. He needs more. Right? He needs more attention.
Wait,
that's good, Ricky.
The famous barber on the East Coast.
Yeah, check him out. MVP Barber. Jordan MVP Barber on the Instagram.
Yeah. Wait, you don't have an Instagram. Now you're shutting people out on Instagram?
No, I'm just saying. That's what he does. He told me he does.
Wait, Thole, you went to the famous barber on the East Coast that hooking up the Dominicans, giving them the flow?
No. Local guy. No,
but I'm saying, when you were in the bigs, you would go to that guy?
Yeah, $100 haircuts. Awesome.
You come in the clubhouse. Everyone's gotten a haircut by him, man. Everyone.
Yeah.
Rick, you're bald.
Boy,
even Ricky got his haircut by him.
Yeah.
All right. Today's guest, I'm excited for it. Never met the man, but I know of him, watched him pitch, and I'm not trying to say because he's old, but it's pretty cool. Ricky, you had mentioned his name when we first started the podcast a couple of years ago, when what are the potential people to have? A 1996 Cy Young Award winner, 3-time All-Star, World Series champion, Pat Hentgen, that joins the podcast today. Pat, as I told you, this isn't your traditional baseball podcast. We don't care about what's going on right now. We don't care about analytics and Stratosphere or whatever, all that other Rapsodo stuff. I want to know about like the amazing Pat Hentgen and Fraser High in Detroit. That's all that matters to me.
All right, thanks for having me, man. Fraser High. 15-mile road. Our Detroit's broke up on mile roads. So M&M was on 8 Mile. I lived 8 Mile. I lived like 7 miles further north than Detroit. And now I actually live on 24 miles. Isn't that funny? So I'm out west, yeah. Man, I just played shortstop, brother. I didn't even think I was going to be a college player. I was literally just a shortstop in high school. I pitched in summer ball, and I asked my high school coach if I could pitch 8th grade my senior year. And I was playing shortstop in 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade. And I finally got to pitch because we got rained out a lot in Michigan back there, still do. And that we didn't have a chance to play both games back to back, and I got a chance to finally pitch, and I pitched good. And he called me back in, and he said, "You know what?" He said, "You're right. We're a better team when you pitch." And I started pitching, and the next thing you know, he calls some colleges, and I had a couple radar guns when I pitched, and then when I played shortstop, there were no scouts. I was like, why don't they want to see me throw and run and hit? Come on. And anyway, yeah. So then next week I'd be pitching again, and there'd be 5 scouts. Then there was 10. And I got drafted. I couldn't believe it. I mean, looking back, I was just trying to help my parents pay for college, to be honest with you. And I had a half scholarship to a D1 school in Michigan called Western Michigan. So, I mean, Fraser High is still there, and my buddy's got kids that go there. It's a trip. Yeah, I don't live too far from there right now.
Dude, nobody was paying attention to you, and all of a sudden, you're like, hey, coach, let me pitch. And next thing you know, your life has changed. That's crazy, man.
Yeah, and you know what? It took some balls, too, to go in there and ask the coach. Because, when you're a high school kid, man, the high school coach is like, you're looking at like a legend. He'd been there 30 years. And for me to go in there and tell him that we're a better team if I pitch, I was just telling him. And it was hard. I remember talking to my dad about it. But, yeah, it changed my life for sure. There's no doubt. I got a chance to get on the mound, and I threw 90 in high school. And next thing you know, I was getting drafted.
Could you hit?
I batted well in high school. I mean, everybody hit good in high school, man. Shit,
Not Ricky.
I batted third. I mean, I batted in the 3-hole, brother.
Yeah, Ricky played shortstop, for Christ's sake. Either let off or hit second or third.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. No, and the reason I wanted to have Pat on, obviously he brings a lot of cool, fun stories that he's been through. I mean, he was in the prime of the Toronto Blue Jays when they were winning. I'm sure, I don't think I've ever told him this, but he had a huge influence in my career when I joined the Blue Jays. I remember him coming in as a guest speaker when I got drafted in 2005. It was him and Dave Steeb, two Toronto legends. And I just remember being in awe of them when they'd walk in. And the best thing about them, though, it was like you sit there and they would treat you just like as if you were their teammate. That's how they were. It was never like that. You usually get veteran guys that come back and they think their shit doesn't stink and stuff like that. These guys were like the complete opposite. It's like they wanted to help you make you a better pitcher. And I remember when I got to the big leagues, and I would still see Pat around in throughout the organization. And then 11 and 12, he was with us as a bullpen coach, and he just had a big influence in my career. He always tried making me better, and he kept it simple, man. We always joke about this. Down and away, up and in, down and away. And it was one of the things we'd always say, hey, if you want to back a guy up and in, and then get that back, down and away back in your favor. So it's crazy to think what pitching has become nowadays and how simple we used to keep it and the terminologies we used to use that work. And, big credit goes to him. So that's the reason I wanted to have him and for him to share his stories. I'm sure people will want to hear the cool stories that he has about the Blue Jays heydays when they were going good.
It's funny, Ricky, because in the role that I was in, there's a lot of times you fly into a city and you spend a few days with some minor league players. At the time you were in the minor leagues, you don't really feel like you're having an impact. And when I hear something like this coming from someone like you who made a Major League All-Star team, started on an opening day and did all the things you did in your career, that makes me feel cool. I appreciate that. You don't get to hear that very often from the players. A lot of times, and even I was guilty of this. I didn't give some of the credit that I really loved. I didn't give them the credit that they deserved at the time. And I kind of, when I look back and think about what an influential the guy Mel Queen was for me. It was unbelievable how he taught me how to be a pro, and I wish I would have been able to tell him that to his face. So I appreciate it, man. That's cool.
Well, Pat, it's so true because we were actually talking, I think, last week or 2 weeks on the show about the importance of the veteran presence, right? You step into a different role when you retire, but what you brought to the younger generation, whose now job is to pass it along to the following generation. This is now becoming, it's gone. And I remember sitting, whether it be in the video room or in the where we'd have our meetings, and you and Pete Walker telling stories and talk pitching. That's how we learn. They don't do that anymore. And as a matter of fact, I think some teams are trying to start over and get rid of the old people, and I think that's just it's garbage. I would love to hear your take on it.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I know, like when I played, all the coaches back when I played, all were ex-players. Everybody was an ex-player, and maybe the one guy may not have been an ex-big leaguer, or he got to the big leagues and didn't stay for very long, but he was a long-time pro ball player. You're right, and those stories are when you soak up all that knowledge. We call it talking shop, and it's just one of those things where right now the industry is definitely going with a newer, younger, more of an analytical driven mind for a coach. I'm not so sure that it's the greatest method. I think that you need to have a blend. I feel like at times when you have great people in baseball development, like player development, why not try to teach them and educate them the analytics and the terminology, as opposed to hiring the 25-year-old who already has the analytical background and the knowledge, and now trying to have him talk shop and explain stories and know what it feels like to have the gate swing open at Yankee Stadium and your heart's pounded through your jersey, or you're 3-2 and the bases are loaded, and the feeling that you get on the mound when your heart's racing through your jersey. That if you didn't play, it's kind of hard to share that and experience that with someone.
Yeah, I say I think there's a place. There's definitely a place for it, but the knowledge, Pat, I used today one thing that I picked up from you when you were the bullpen coach was if you get stuck, just go fastball down and away. And I tell my high school kids that all the time. I said, anytime you get stuck when you're calling a game, Pat Hentgen told me, call a fastball down and away. I still use it, and it's something that nobody else can tell you any different.
Yeah, and I mean, I got the chance to bat in the National League, and I remember getting up in the batter's box, and I hadn't swung the bat since high school pretty much, and interleague play, and I get up there, and the ball was outside corner, and he called it a strike, and I looked at the umpire, and I just kind of looked at him, and I said, "That's on the plate." He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "That's right on the corner." It looked like I couldn't hit it with a tennis racket. It looked so far away. I mean, I remember thinking, as a pitcher, I'm like, oh my gosh, quit giving these guys so much credit. Let's just go down and away. Nobody hits that ball well. Now, the hard thing is to execute that pitch.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you, and I can attest to the same thing. When my first career at bat against Cole Hamels, he threw a fastball down and away, and I was like, I looked back at Carlos Ruiz, and I was like, that was a strike, and he's like, dude, it's right down. It's not even paint, it's a strike, and I was like, oh my God, how do these guys hit that? And I think it goes back to what you're saying, having a blend. I think that's what this game is missing, having that blend of having the veteran guys, having guys like you said. It's different when you're warming up at Yankee Stadium, when you're warming up at Fenway Park, and you're about to go face a Big Papi, a Dustin Pedroia, a Kevin Youkilis, a Victor Martinez, and you're just nobody can teach that. The guys that have done it and have been there. So having a perfect blend, I think, makes the perfect sense in this. And I feel like it's been a little bit swaying that way towards, let's worry about the numbers, let's worry about the spin rate, rather than, hey, let's all blend it together and see what kind of mixture we get so that we're successful.
Yeah, and Pat, this isn't the come on here and bash everything about baseball. We're not trying to sound like every single baseball analyst, but because we're doing this because it's a labor of love, right? We're not making money on this podcast, but getting to know Ricky over the years. And my background is I'm a sports reporter here in Los Angeles. I got to know Ricky interviewing him, and then he and I became friends and stuff like that. So we did started the podcast a couple years ago when he officially retired, and just to hear people's stories. And I've always been fascinated by the 1% that you guys are. Less than 20,000 of you have reached the level where you're at, let alone the win the World Series or Cy Young like you have. And I love hearing people's journeys. So take me back to Pat Hentgen. How did you fall in love with baseball? Because that's the reason we're here, because we love this game.
Yeah, love started early. I was a little guy. My mom always told me I love baseball. Threw it up against the house till my dad came home from work. So yeah, definitely a hard worker when it came to baseball. Loved baseball at a high level. That was my favorite sport. I got drafted. I go to the minor leagues. I didn't know anything about pitching. I didn't even know how to throw a breaking ball. I was all four-seam fastballs when I got drafted, and I learned how to throw my breaking ball in the minor leagues. And matter of fact, an ex-pitcher, Steve Cummings, who went in the second round that year, he actually taught me how to throw a breaking ball in the bullpen one day. Back then when I was in rookie ball. So, I had a long drive. I played 5.5 years in the minor league. Signed out of high school. I walked 90 guys in A-ball. I played 3.5 years of A-ball. I played a AA, a AAA, and I got called up. I went to 2 winter balls. I played in 4 instructional balls. So, people don't realize the path to the major leagues. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of being away from home and to just show up, put your hat on backwards, and go out there and play and be a great big leaguer. It's just really, really rare. I think back on my career, I think Ricky Henderson and maybe David Wells are the only 2 guys that I played with where I didn't see them do a ton of work. Doesn't mean that they didn't do work. I just never saw them do anything, and they both were extremely successful. Obviously Ricky is one of the greatest of all. And then, you just grind through the minor leagues, and you're not really thinking about getting to the big leagues at that point. I think you're so far away. And then once you get to like AA and AAA, you realize, wow, I could be I could be called up soon.
You said, Pat, you said you walked the guys in the minors at one point. What do you think? What flipped the switch for you when it came to that? Like, what was like that turning point where like, all right, I got to pitch to contact or else I'm going to be released. Yeah.
It's a great question. So I buckshot my way and stuffed my way all the way up to AAA. I get to the big leagues. I'm running out of options. I'm in spring training, and Mark Eichhorn, a soft tossing reliever for us, control guy, just got done pitching. This is my aha moment. I'm getting to it. He comes in after the one inning of work. He sits down next to me in my locker. I knew he pitched well. I heard the game online. I could hear the game on the radio. I said, "Hey, Ike, how'd you do?" He said, "Oh, I was wild." I said, "How many guys did you walk?" He looked at me like I had three eyes. He goes, "I didn't walk anybody." He said, "I was wild in the zone." And I remember driving home that day just going, what? Like, I'm not even looking at this the right way. Like, I was like in the zone. That was like point control for me if I was in the box at that time, my mindset. And I remember driving home that day thinking, wow, I'm not looking at it the right way. And the next day, my mindset changed from that day forward. Every day I'd get better and better at just locating my fastball. And to be honest with you guys, if it wasn't my fastball command, I probably don't play the last 4 or 5 years because my stuff wasn't all that great towards the end of my career. I was probably 90, 88, 89, 90 with a hook, a little cutter. I had to massage the strike pitch.
That's for you love though. Like that's pitching to me. That's and this is not harping again on the new school type stuff, but you don't see much of that. That's why now you're starting to see it a little bit more with guys going complete games. It pumps me up when you see that, and I'm sure it does you too, Pat. I mean, to go a complete game in the big leagues is not an easy thing, to get 27. And this is like when you're doing it at 89, 90, 91, 92, that's pitching to me. And when you're able to do that, like you said, fastball command. If you're a young kid listening out there, the fastball comes first. Everyone wants to follow up with the breaking ball and the changeups and the splitter and the movement of the ball, but fastball command takes you a long, long way.
Pat, how did you establish how did you learn fastball command, right? Is it something that you practiced, or was it, or the repetition or focus?
Okay, a couple things. Eichhorn's aha moment when he told me about being wild in the zone, that was a mindset. Then someone told me, I can't remember who it was, I think it was Mel Queen, told me, we only got 12 minutes on the side. Let's get locked in. Let's make sure we get the best of it. So be the best practice pitcher you could be. That means command, even though you're sore, get the soreness out so you can work on pitching. And I think that helped me a lot. And then the third thing was it came from a catcher, Josh. Pat Borders was our starting catcher, and I was young and just trying to get established. And it was I was still kind of pitching in the bullpen, kind of the sixth starter type guy, long relief, mopping up a little bit. And we were in the shagging in the bullpen, we were shagging in the outfield. And I said, who's got the best fastball command on the team? And he said, you do. And I don't know if he was bullshitting, but man, what a boost. What a boost.
Yeah.
I mean, the day I was like, what? I walked around the whole day that day. I walked around like, what? I can't believe that. MVP of the World Series last year thinks that I have the best fastball command. Like, that really helped me. Even though he may have been, he could have been. I don't know. I'd have to call him.
Yeah, but that's the mindset, right? That's the mindset part. That is like, it's confidence. You build the confidence. You believe you can do it.
It is. I remember when I won my Cy Young, my second half of the year, I didn't make the All-Star team that year. The second half of the year, I remember laying in bed in like July, August, September for sure, August for sure. I remember laying in bed, just laying in bed, going through the lineup the night before, and I was just going out down the line. I was like, out. And then when you're struggling, you're going into the same city, facing the same lineup, and you're like, oh my gosh, I got Brady Anderson, then I got Surhoff, then I got Ripken, then I got Albert Bell, and you're like, it's amazing how much confidence is. I think that's what separates some of the great players is how they stay so confident. I don't know how they do it.
Wait, Pat, you said the year you won the Cy Young, you weren't even an All-Star?
Right. No, I didn't make the All-Star team that year.
Then how?
They only took 10 pitchers, and there was only 5 or 6 starters and like 3 or 4 closers. So you had to be the top 4 or 5 guys in the AL East or in the American League to make the All-Star team. I think looking back, I think there was 5 guys that were better maybe that
But
year in the first half.
that kind of goes to like we're in our group chat that Thole's not involved because Thole lives on a farm and he only responds to texts like 3 days later, so he can't be invited to the group chat. But we have this where people get so fired up, especially fans, about what happens in April and May, and then you forget that it's a long time before you get to October, and that's part of like your 1996 season. You weren't an All-Star at that point, but then it just clicked and you went and you were on fire the rest of the year. How did you do it? What did you do that year where you're like, damn, I'm the Cy Young?
You know, I think it was one of those things where all the innings I pitched in the minor leagues, I pitched like 150 innings for 5 straight years in the minor leagues, so I had a lot of reps under my belt when I got to the big leagues. And I think that when I got to that second half, I just got in a sweet spot where my body physically and my mind mentally just peaked, man, at that right time, where it was just like, holy cow, man, physically, this is the best stuff I've ever had in my life. And my mindset is my most confident player I've ever been. And I think it was just a combination of both. And then obviously the results. When you just start having results like that, it's like you walk around, Rick, you walk around for 4 days, man, with your head held high when you throw a CG or throw a good game. And, it's just 4 days of love and life. And then when you don't pitch well, it's like, it feels like 10 days.
And I know that feeling of what you're talking about. Obviously, I didn't win a Cy Young, but you were there in 2011, and you used to tell me, in my bullpen work, you're like, Rick, you can go out there and pitch 7 innings today, huh? And I was like, yeah. And it was the confidence. It was the confidence of.
And Ricky, you could have done that. A 1-day rest. That's how good your sides were. Yeah,
dude, I remember those bullpens. You're so, like you said, you're so locked in, and it was like 15, 20 pitches, but it was like I felt like I couldn't miss a spot. And I remember you and Pappy would look at each other, and you're like, oh my god, that was just crisp. In, out, go out in 2 days and go throw 7, 8 innings again, and do it again. And I felt like that month in August and September, it was like so locked in that you just like, no matter what you throw. And like you said, you talk about the box, you're like, I can be wild as I can in that little box. It don't matter. If I miss a spot, it don't matter because it's gonna be a swing and miss or it's gonna be an out. And that is just the confidence that you build. And I mean, again, it goes to listening to stories like you, and I remember when I was younger, how Doc was so attached to you too. And I was like, there's got to be a reason why a Roy Halladay is attached to a Pat Hentgen when he comes in town. And I always wondered, I was like, how can I get in there? And eventually, obviously, I did. But I feel like there was a reason why, like a guy like Roy Halladay looked up to you so much, and it was cool to see that bond and you used to go watch him and do his thing, and it was like, dude, this guy is unbelievable too, and there's a reason why it kind of trickled down, I feel like, and I started listening more, and in 11 it just completely changed for me. 10 and 11.
Yeah, it's funny because I always tell people that's the 2 reasons the Blue Jays traded me was Roy Halladay and Chris Carpenter. They were both, and these guys are coming into spring training. And I'm going, what the? 6'5", throwing gas with a nasty breaker. I'm like, these guys have a bigger body, threw harder. I'm like, holy cow, I'm out of here. About a year later, I'm gone. And those guys were great. They were great rookies. Doc was a great rookie. He was all ears. He was a hard worker, and he used to throw over the top, as you guys know the whole story. But yeah, great competitor. Loved watching him pitch. Matter of fact, he was a big reason why I went back to Toronto in 2004. I had a chance to go play in Baltimore and other teams too, the Dodgers, I think. And, I wanted to go back to Toronto. I wanted to be back with Doc and Carlos Delgado and Vernon Wells at that time. And Doc was just such a horse. I knew that if I slipped into Toronto, I could be the 5-hole. And that's right where I needed to be. But, yeah. So anyway, that was one of the big reasons. I love Doc. Doc was great.
What a work ethic Doc had too. I've talked to guys that have played with him in Philadelphia, and the focus. I just quickly, Brian Schneider was catching him. I was playing for the Mets at the time. We were in Philadelphia, and Brian Schneider was a guy that mentored me and didn't say a word to me while we were in center field warming up because Doc was pitching. The next night we went out to, that night after the game, we went out to have drinks, and Schneid told me that Doc does not want him talking to the opposing team. And you talk about focus leading into a game. That's what he was.
Oh yeah, no doubt. When I was in the player development role, he said, "Hey, can you come up and talk to a young pitcher we have in Toronto?" I said, "Who is it?" He said, "Sean Markham." I said, what do you want me to say to Sean? Because Sean blew through the minor leagues. He was a real talented kid. He was a stud. And he said, what do you want me to talk to him about? I said, I want you to talk to him about your work habits, how you worked. Because he's like, I used to watch you, and that's how I got mine, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay. So I drive up to Toronto, and I get up to Doc, and I say, Doc, I go, why don't you talk to him? I said, you're freaking Doc Halladay, man. Like, you don't, like, what am I going to tell him? He's like, yeah, but you're not as big as me, and you don't throw as hard. So he goes, I wanted Markham to kind of see a guy that was more like your size and threw like 90. And I said, okay. So we get him in Jeff Ross's office. It was me, Markham, and Doc. And I said, what's your deal, Sean? I said, you don't feel like you have to work hard to stay here? He says, Greg Maddux doesn't work hard. That's what I've heard. And that was his answer. And I remember saying to him, you think you're Greg Maddux? And I said, you think you're Greg Maddux? He goes, no, but he said, I just heard stories. He's pitched a long time. And I said, yeah. I said, and I told him the story about Wells and Ricky. And you know, Doc was right. He didn't listen. He didn't work. And he was out of baseball pretty quick for a guy that was as talented as he was. And look, I'm not dogging Sean. I liked Sean. I actually thought he was a hell of a talent, man. He can really pitch. I mean, he had some balls, man. He did. He had it all, man. He had the balls, the command. He had a great fish. He was good.
The fish.
Wait, hold on. Speak English here. What the hell's a fish?
Change it.
It's a dead fish, we used to call it. When you shake a guy's hand and they give you that dead fish, we just used to call it, you know, when you throw a dead fish fastball and kind of jerk the hitter off.
Oh, all day long. I can listen to that.
Now that term right there needs to be used instead of Rapsodo and Stratomatic or whatever and all that other stuff. That fish. All right.
Pat, it's funny because a lot of people always ask me about Doc and how he was, and I'm like, dude, he was actually pretty funny when you got to know him and very dry humor. You know, a lot of people are always like, he's so serious. Yeah, he was serious. He was dedicated to his craft, but I always felt like he was. He'd all of a sudden come out of left field and just with the funny joke, and you're like, wait, did Doc just say that? And everyone was laughing up.
I know. You were like scared to laugh around him. What? Can you laugh around him? I don't even know.
And Pat was one of those guys that would literally come into the clubhouse and could go and sit next to Doc Halladay. Like,
he was that guy? You're that guy.
Like, you really couldn't bother Doc, but Pat and him had that relationship where it was like, I can go up to him and we can shoot the shit, and they did, you know, and that's why I was always like, I want to get to that level where Pat comes and sits next to me and Pat is like chilling with me, you know, because I knew and I understood who he was and what he meant to the Toronto Blue Jays at the time, what he meant. You know, again, this guy was there when they won back-to-back World Series, you know, which I want to dive into a little bit. And I remember him always saying, like, Rick, you think opening day is cool? He's like, this shit was filled every single home game when we were here winning the World Series. And I was like, damn, every home game, like, you're talking Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, he's like, it didn't matter. He's like, it was sold out every single game.
Yeah, and I want to get into that World Series stuff too. Pat Hentgen, who, like I said, I've never met you, but Ricky's just raved about when he comes back from like those camps that you guys do in Canada. He's like the stories with George Bell and Pat Hentgen, and he goes, we got to get Pat on the podcast. And I guess you guys talked yesterday, and you were kind of like, I don't know much about baseball today, and like, well, neither do I. And I get paid to pay attention. I don't care. I'd rather hear about fish stories than about these stories. I can never get tired of Roy Halladay's stories ever, and the stuff you guys got. But as a kid, 1993, I'm in junior high, and Joe Carter, a walk-off homer. You're there, but you pitched in Game 3. So if you don't win Game 3, there is no Joe Carter. So because of you, Joe Carter got to have a walk-off moment, right?
Yeah, you know, the World Series. I pitched Game 3. We split games 1 and 2. I pitched Game 3. We get a 3 spot in the first. I go out. What do? I got second and third, 1 out. The 3-hole hitter hits a ball down the line. Molitor's playing first. He always DHs. We had Ole there, but we were playing against a lefty. And Molly, I'll never forget it, hands the ball to me, and the crowd was going crazy. We couldn't hear a word. And he goes, I'm sorry, I should have had that. That's what he said. And I don't remember if he had it, but that's the type of player Molitor was. You know, he was accountable. And anyway, and then we go on to win that game, and I pitched that game, and it was great. It felt great. I got lucky and got out of the first inning and went on to pitch a good game. We scored a lot of runs. But I'll tell you what the coolest part about that World Series was Game 4. Game 4, we come back and drop a 3 spot in the 9th and win 15-14.
Yep.
And we come in the locker room after the game. I'll never forget it. And it was 20. I get chills thinking about it. It was 25 guys in a circle, all clapping at the same time, getting louder, 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 and louder. I mean, we just knew that we went up 3-1, and we're going back to Toronto with our 2 aces, Guzman and Dave Stewart, going in games 6 or 5 and 6. Now, game 6 comes, and we're losing, and I'm charting. And those numbers are starting to get real screwed. I'm getting nervous. I'm like, holy shit, man. We're going to play 180 games, and it's going to come down to 1 game, and I'm pitching it. I just couldn't believe that. And I'm scheduled to go game 7, and what happens? We get 2 guys on. Ricky and Devo get on. They just work the walk. Joe hits a ball right down the left field line, and everybody in the stadium thought it was foul. Joe pulled so many balls foul. And for some reason, the baseball gods, man, they kept that ball fair and just went right over the wall. And I chucked that chart, and we started celebrating. And I'll tell you what, man, you're looking at the happiest guy in the world that Joe's ball stayed fair. I'll tell you this, 'cause I wanted nothing to do with Game 7. Nothing. That's a true story.
Now, all right. Now, you, Pat, you have the chart in your hand. You see that ball. The videos I've seen, I've heard Sean McDonough's call on CBS, and then it just seems like the crowd noise went on for like 10 minutes. How loud? What were you doing? Where were you? What was going on?
I was at the edge of the dugout opposite where the manager sits on third base side, and we had I just dropped the clipboard and took off on the field. And you know, it's funny, I'm claustrophobic, so I didn't want to be on the bottom of the pile. Yeah, you go back and look, man, I'm on the outside perimeter like I'm in some kind of a baseball brawl, you know. Everybody's kind of looking at each other in those baseball brawls for the most part. And yeah, anyway, I just remember being on the outside of the celebration, and yeah, just incredible memory, man.
Hey, Pat, I want to ask you this. How was it? I mean, you don't see lineups like that nowadays. How was it walking into a clubhouse and seeing all those names? And you're just like, holy smoke. Like, do we have a hole in this lineup? Like, how was it walking into the clubhouse knowing what kind of lineup you had as a starting pitcher?
Oh, playing behind me, you talking about? It was incredible.
Yeah, behind you offensively.
Oh, Gold Glove at first, Olerud, bats 300 every year with like 2,500 RBIs. Alomar's Hall of Fame. Tony Fernandez is one of the greatest shortstop in Blue Jay history. Kelly Gruber the first year, Ed Sprague the second year for those World Series teams. You talk about defenders. Pat Borders was like a 4-foot piece of fence. He so he was so tough, like all catchers, but he was a tough kid, man. He was a tough guy, and he played hurt. And in the outfield, we had Joe Carter, very good defender, solid, always threw to the right base, always hit the cutoff man. Devon White, what are you going to say there? One of the greatest, arguably, best defenders, one of the greatest defenders of all time. So we were extremely solid. We had great defense. Candy Maldonado played left field. Derek Bell was a young player, our 4th outfielder. We were stacked, man. We had a good team. Yeah. We had
so where did Ricky play?
Where did who?
Ricky Henderson.
Oh, sorry, Ricky was the second World Series. Ricky was the 93 team. You're right. It was Ricky. On my bad. We traded for Ricky.
Yeah. Oh, Pat, how could you forget that? Oh, I mean, traded for Ricky's in town.
Before we got Cone. The year before we got David Cone at the deadline.
That's right.
You know? Yeah. Our front office, man. There's a reason they're in the Hall of Fame.
That was Gillick, right?
It was Beeston and Gillick, yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
All right.
I mean, that's doing it.
Now we got to ask. Okay.
Well, and then you had Jack Morris too, right? I mean, he was another.
And Dave Stewart.
Hey, suck on that. Yeah, suck on this. I'm in Venezuela playing winter ball, trying to be the 5th hole, and I read in some paper that's like a week behind down there in Venezuela back then that the Jays signed Jack Morris. I go, what? The 5th hole. I'm down in Venezuela. I'm coming with my hook. Let me make the team. And then I ended up making the team. I'm out of options. I'm in the bullpen. I just was long reliever that year, the 92 team. But we signed Jack Morris. I forgot. Oh, by the way, we had Dave Steve, Jack Morris, Juan Guzman, Todd Stottlemyre, Jimmy Key. We traded for Cone. Wait, listen to this. We traded for Cone. In our bullpen, we had Al Leiter, David Wells, myself, Hanky Ward, Timlin. Like,
wow.
Come on, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
I get chills to see that because like that's crazy. That's crazy.
That's great. David Wells and Al Leiter, Boomer won 250 games.
Yeah.
As a starter.
Yeah, as Tom Cheek said on the radio call, touch them all, Joe, touch them all. And you were like, throw that clipboard out of here. I don't want anything to do with it. Yeah. All right, now I got to ask, because I met Ricky Henderson when he was with the Dodgers at the very end of his career. So I got to be around it. And there's few people, I've been a long-time reporter, where you walk around, you're like, that person has a presence. Like, Jerry West, Magic. Ricky Henderson had that presence of like, I'm a bad mofo. I might be 48 years old right now, but I will outrun you. I will outlift you. I'll do whatever you need right now. He was still jacked. He had triceps and biceps and whatever steps you needed to have on his neck, all that stuff. What was Ricky like? Because we've heard all the Ricky stories, but how many of them are true?
So I saw Ricky about 5 years ago. He still looks like he can play, by the way. Yeah. And I'm 52. He's probably 60. That guy is unbelievable. I guarantee that guy can go out and give you a good at-bat right now. Ricky's confidence, we talked about it earlier, about his confidence and how important it plays for a player. I remember that we were in the clubhouse in Baltimore, and we were playing the White Sox in the ALCS, and Dave Stewart and Ricky Henderson were old Oakland teammates, and they're sitting in the clubhouse as Blue Jays. You know what they're talking about? Who's going to get the MVP? That's what I'm getting the MVP, Stu says. Ricky's like, dude, he goes, you're only going to pitch twice. He goes, I'm getting the MVP. He goes, and you know what? Stewart got the MVP. But let me tell you, Ricky only batted about 230 or 240, but his on base was probably 400 because he walked so much, and the confidence that he brought to our team and our lineup. Yeah. And it's just unbelievable what a trickle effect a good, confident player that has results and has a good work habit and good work ethic, what an influence he can have on your team. It's amazing.
Dude, the Ricky stories you've heard, like obviously the one with him and Olerud is made up. That's the one that they did. But the other one's about somebody told them like, Ricky, why are you sitting in the front of the bus? You got tenure when he was in San Diego. He's like, Ricky don't have tenure. Ricky got 20 year. That one I know has been true because Ricky didn't know what tenure meant. But like all the different Ricky Henderson stories, because Ricky Romero, I don't know if you remember. You might be younger. Totally might remember this because you're closer to my age. But Ricky wearing the blades in Oakland with the neon, like, dude, did you ever face him, Pat?
Oh yeah, it was brutal. The strike zone was like this. He was so patient and with full side power, and you walked him, it was a double. So, I mean, he was just I've always said this, I think he's one of the greatest top 5 players, man. He was just he was a great defender. He could run the bases as good as anybody. He was a total game changer offensively. That guy was just so good because he could walk, He emphasized on-base percentage before the industry really emphasized it. Now they emphasize it a lot more, but I think the true baseball guys back then recognized how important it was that he walked, but to add the 300 homer power and the lifetime 300 batting average, I mean, this guy was so good, you guys. It sucked facing him. I mean, it wasn't fun facing him. And then you got Murderers Row coming up behind him with Carney Lansford and Canseco, McGuire, Harold Baines, Terry Steinbeck. That was a pretty good team. That was a tough lineup back then. And you just had to throw to Ricky, man. You did not want him on base. It was like, hit it.
And then he hit leadoff home runs, too. That was the thing. Leadoff homers, and you're like, what the heck? Like, I haven't even watched the game yet.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Totally, you threw him out, didn't you?
Yeah, no, I'm not that old. Jesus, I have gray hair, man. Holy shit, man. Hey, it's funny, though, because Ricky would walk, and Ricky could turn a walk into a triple with no problem. Now, all of a sudden, he's a sac fly away. That's like the value of stealing bases and, like, how good he was as a game changer, as Pat says. Like, that's what made that team so disgusting was they could pop a ball out of the ballpark. They were on the board, I would imagine, even blink, huh, Pat?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was, like you said, man, it just sucked because then Ricky's on first. Now it's affecting the way I'm throwing to the second guy. And, it just the guy before Ricky, he was just a Hall of Fame player from the get-go. And, funny story. I'm on the bus with him one time, and he's sitting right behind me. And I lean behind him. I go, hey, Rick, I go, did you play high school football? He goes, yeah. I said, running back? He goes, yeah. I said, scholarship? He goes, yep. I said, where at? He said, anywhere. I go, how good were you? He goes, actually better. My what was it? He said his junior year, he was better. He said that he got tackled a lot from the side in his senior year, and he said the coach gave him some great advice. He said, when you get the ball, don't run. Once you get through the hole, don't run around anybody. Just run them right over. Because it's, and Ricky said that's when he just broke like every California record. He just said just pancaked those poor high school defenders,
So I've heard stories that supposedly Ricky was a badass football player in Oakland, and he really did have the options of wherever he wanted to go. Like, he wasn't him just saying, yeah, it was, no, yeah. Like, what, you didn't? You didn't have USC, UCLA, whatever. You like Ricky was like, yeah. I'm gonna recruit you. I'm gonna let you know I'm coming to your school. That's how Ricky was. I love these stories. Love these stories, Pat. Pat, go ahead, Rick.
No, I was gonna say, where did the Cy Young Award and the 2 World Series rings sit for you? Like, where do you have them in your house, or do you have them away? Like,
no. I have a safe in the house. My rings are in the safe, and my Cy Young is a plaque, as you guys know, and I just have it on the wall right behind me, right in front. Yeah, I'm in. Yeah,
that's.
I wasn't sure if I should have background. I thought it kind of
yes.
Was a little.
No. On this show, look, I show off all my fancy curtains right here behind me.
Yeah.
So we have all. Yeah. So if you want to show off, you totally has that.
I know you were there. Look, I show off my bat that I got my first base hit with. So damn right, I'm gonna show that off.
I remember that. And an all-star team too, dude.
Yeah. Hey, Tolly, show off your calendar, bro. Show off that calendar from.
Yeah, there's my calendar right there.
Yeah. See, nobody messes around. Fun. Look at that calendar from March. Tolly is still in spring training.
Yeah, but Pat knows. Pat, you live out in the country, right?
No, I live in the suburbs. I have property in the country, but
you have property. Yeah, but your cell phone doesn't work. Nothing works, right? I got to come to town to be able to get some internet service and a camera and all of that stuff. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, no, I have signal where I'm at, but my cabin's like that, where my cabin is in Ontario. The cell signal just kicked in about 5 years ago.
Yeah. So no,
hold on. The important question: Did you get a deer hunt this year, Pat?
You know what? I didn't go this year. I didn't make it over there.
Our guys from California love hunting. So.
We love.
Oh, yeah.
No. We don't. We're Mexicans from LA, Pat. Mexicans from LA. We don't know hunting. We know that the hunting stories are all that the rage in the clubhouses.
We're invited to Pat's cabin, though. He's invited me a few times. I just obviously can't make it up there, but he's got a cabin up there where they chill and just you don't have to hunt. You just can go chill and talk shop.
I'll do that.
That's right. Hey, remember Burley's been there and Brett Cecil came up that one year? Yeah. It's cool. Drive the ATVs, have some beers, grill out. Who doesn't like that?
Hey, I got a beer sponsorship, Pat. We're coming. I'll go to you, Pat. That's fine. Totally lives on this 200-acre farm where every single day he's fixing a fence or he's building a schoolhouse or so. There's he's falling off of roofs, or roof, whatever how the plural form is, whatever it is. But we go to Tolly's, he's going to put us to work. I don't want to do that. There's no need for manual labor.
Yeah, come to my place. We'll have beers and grill out.
Okay, Rick, let's go. Get the private jet, Rick. We're going.
Hey, Pat, I wanted to tell our listeners this story about when Cito in the All-Star. Were you in the All-Star game in Baltimore when he got booed?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What was the reasoning behind it?
So we talked about it earlier. I mentioned it earlier how back then they only took 10 pitchers, and some organizations would be like, hey, if you don't, can you try not to pitch this guy because we don't want to pitch him or whatever. So Cito called Mussina and I into his office before the game and said, hey, you guys are young, you're going to make another All-Star team. I'm not pitching you guys today. So I just want to let you know that you're not going to pitch. I'm pitching the older guys. This might be their last All-Star game. And I remember walking out of his office thinking, man, is that guy smoking crack? Like, what is he thinking? I'd make another All-Star. I was like, what's he mean? And I remember thinking that. Of course, Mussina's walking out like, yeah, I'll probably be the 10 because he was just great. And so we go into the dugout. We walk out for BP. Didn't think anything of it. We go out to the bullpen. Moose and I know we're not pitching. Moose is scheduled to pitch, I think, 3 days out maybe after the break. He tells the bullpen coach, who was the Blue Jays bullpen coach at the time, I want to throw a side. And so they just start getting up and throwing a side. Well, the whole stadium just erupted thinking that Cito was warming them up to bring him in the game. And when Cito didn't bring him in and he brought in his established hometown Toronto Blue Jay, Dwayne Ward, to close the game out, everybody went crazy. Like, what an asshole. He's teasing us all.
Oh, shit.
So now, this poor manager, every time he goes into the Baltimore, he's got to wear the Cito Sucks shirt all the time everywhere. Where, it was really a raw deal. I'd like to hear Mussina's side of the story, but that's kind of what I thought would happen. I don't know if he called down the dugout and said, hey, ask Cito if I can throw a side. Because, like, when I was a bullpen coach, you don't want to call the dugout. If you guys ever be a bullpen coach, the last thing you want to do is have to call the dugout for any reason. But I had to call a dugout in this particular time to say, hey, Bruce Walton, is it okay if, such and such Jason Frazier throws a side? And then he'll say, yeah, it's okay. We're not going to use him today, blah, 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 blah. Click. And I don't know if Mussina did that, but that's what happened. Whoa. And the crowd went crazy. Yeah. So everybody was pissed at Mussina from the Blue Jay standpoint. We were pissed because we were like, come on, dude, you could have thrown your side. Like, after the stadium, we could have went in the batting tunnel, hit it in the cage. Like, you didn't have to do it out here in your home crowd. Now, I do get his point. He was probably pissed because he wasn't going to pitch, and it was his hometown. Yeah. And he could have been thinking the same thing as me. Like, you lost your mind? How do you know I'm going to make another All-Star team? You know what I mean? So,
give me a couple outs.
This is why. This is why I tell the group chat all the time. I hold not like a hateful grudge against.
Yeah, you do. Washington. Yeah, you do.
But I mean, my one and only All-Star game, and he used all the
Ricky. Sorry, I cut you off. Set that story up again. Who do you hate?
No, I just he didn't use me, man.
Who?
Ron Washington.
Ron Washington. Okay.
Yeah, and like he used it was like Gio Gonzalez's first All-Star, Michael Pineda first All-Star, Brandon League's first All-Star, and they all got used. Even some of the guys like Gio Gonzalez came in for one out, and I was like, dude, just give me an out. Just like I just wanted one out, and he's like, oh, they told me before the game, it was like, oh, if the game is tied, you're gonna come in, and I was like, the odds of that happening in an All-Star game, I mean, it happened once, and obviously it was a shit show, but I was like, just we knew we weren't coming back. Give me an out. There was only two guys that didn't throw. Me and Jose Valverde, who at the time was an elite closer, so he was making All-Star games every year. And I was like, just give me an out. I just want to say I pitched in it. I mean, obviously I could say I was an All-Star. Yeah, cool. But I would have been even better if I got a chance to pitch in it.
I agree. So my first All-Star game, I didn't pitch at all. Then in '97, I make the All-Star team again in Cleveland. And I'm shagging. And Mel Stoudemire comes up to me and goes, hey, I doubt you'll get in today. And I'm like, okay. And he didn't realize that I didn't pitch in the first one, I'm sure. And Clemens was standing next to me. I'll never forget this. And Clemens goes, I'm not pitching in the game if we don't get Hentgen in an out.
That's freaking awesome.
Yeah, isn't that sweet, man?
That's freaking awesome.
And Mel Stoudemire goes, all right, man, I'll get you an inning. And I got to pitch a whole inning.
Hey, you know what?
I would not have said anything. It was freaking the Rocket, man. I had like his Flames poster in my minor league dorm when I was in the
I have a lot of respect for him now.
Yeah, dude, he was a great teammate, man. He was a good dude. I liked playing with him. He worked hard. He helped me. He wasn't a guy that would go around and give information out. Like Roy Halladay and Carpenter told me they learned more from me than they did from Clemens. But that was personality differences. I'm more outgoing and more of a talker, and Clemens is more introverted and just kind of stayed to himself. Remember, when you're like at that status, like Nolan Ryan, man, you're just getting pulled so many different avenues. Like it's different. It's hard unless you're in that situation.
Hey, Pat, you said he had to pack up his locker, right, before every start.
He had to pack up his equipment bag. He had to leave his glove and his jersey separate and his hats because he would get to the next city and they would unzip his bag. Even if he locked it up and stuff, they would break into it and steal his jersey or his game glove. And it's like, gosh, man, you know how it is to lose your gamer. So, the jersey you can get back, no big deal, but it's the gamer that sucks. So, yeah, he used to call it the Men in Black. He'd carry like this silver case. And I said, open that up, man. I want to see what's in there. He opened it up. He had 2 baseball gloves. Listen to the company he used. I think it was called Worth. Like, do you remember that? Like,
the Worth gloves. Yeah, the bats.
time is like Rawlings or Wilson or Spalding or Nuno and I remember laughing at him going, dude, you're the Rocket. You're using a Worth glove? You know? Come on, Pat. You know? Yeah. That's funny.
Hey, Pat, I was telling Beto, I was like, you got to tell the story about him when he was icing his arm. I know you've told it many times to me, but God, I never get tired of hearing that story. Listen to the story.
So he's pitching in Toronto, and it's against the Mariners. He only had like 2 bad games the whole year. I think Griffey takes him deep in the second. He hits Sorrento for no reason, just to do it. And then 5 innings later, Griffey takes him deep again, and the inning ends, and he comes in after the 7th inning, and he takes this, he walks, says goodbye, he goes into the clubhouse, he puts his elbow in like a half tire, like a car tire, and then he's got a bag here and a bag in his back on his lat. He was a big icer, and he's sitting there, and he always wanted me to come in and talk to him about his start. He liked to just talk a little bit after his games. He'd come in and ask me about pitches selection and blah, blah, blah. He was big on whether he was tipping his pitches. He always asked me that too. So then he's watching the game on the monitor. Well, sure as shit, man, the Mariners retaliate, and they hit our first hitter. What does he do? He pulls his shit out of the ice. He grabs all his wet stuff. He puts all his wet shit back on. I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, I'm going back in the game. And I'm like, what? He goes, he walks back down the tunnel, out to the dugout, walks right over to Tim Johnson, the manager, and says, give me one hitter. Johnson goes, you got it, Clem. Inning ends, because remember, he wasn't officially out of the game. Inning ends, they go back out and warm up. Who do you think's leading off? Paul Sorrento. I'm like, you got to get me. Unbelievable. And what does he do? Wallops him right in the side of the ribs again. And I'm like, oh, I can't believe that just happened. And nothing happened. Sorrento was just completely pro. He knew it was coming. They retaliated when they thought Clemens was out of the game. They made a mistake. And for the reliever to come in. Yeah, that's a true story. He pulled his shit out of the ice. And you know, when all the players out about that, like Josh, you know, as a position player, you're going to be a little on edge on a day when Clemens pitches. You bring a little more to your game that day. Because Ed Sprague's a good friend of mine. He played third every day for 6 years with me. And he said, when you and Clemens pitch, he said, there's a little different edge with us. He said, and he goes, it's just what better. He said, a good starting pitcher does that to the team. You know, they always say it's not, your momentum's only as good as your next day's pitcher. You know, now today it's like 7 relievers. You know, like my buddy says, who's playing for the Tigers? Or who's playing Tigers playing? It's Jack Morris against Dave Steve. You know what they say now? It's 7 relievers against 6 relievers.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
That's a big thing from a fan standpoint. When I was a kid, man, it was, man, let's go see Kershaw. Let's go see Scherzer. You know, let's go see Jack Morris. Now it's let's go see 6 relievers against 7 relievers. You know, that should change. They should try to change that.
You're right, Pat. That is so true. I grew up in St. Louis. That is exactly. We would go to games because of who was starting. Right. That's what you did. That's what you didn't know what you were going to see. You could have saw a no-hitter. You could have saw a perfect game. You could have seen a beanball fest. You just didn't know. That's just what it was back then. I loved it.
Dude, the Rocket, man. That's a good story. Let me pull up this picture right now that we got. I found some images of the Rocket's glove. You're right. I forgot. A Worth.
Is it Worth? It
was a Worth. This is what he had as a rookie. There it is. Is a rookie all-star card. A Worth card. A Worth glove. And then later on in his career, he started using Louisville Slugger glove. He had a deal with them where TPX, which was the bat, right? Everybody had a TPX bat. Clemens is the one who gets the TPX glove, and it was the Rocket Man series glove. So he had his own little patch on there, like Rocket Man on there. Like I never would have thought that Louisville Slugger and Worth is what Roger Clemens was using. Like who would have thought that? But yeah, you're right. Get paid, homie. Get paid.
Yeah, Clemens was awesome. You guys would have loved him. You guys would have loved playing with him.
That's it, man.
That's great.
I have a teammate who can do that. Who can just I'm sure that his hitters respected him even more when he would do stuff like that. Like, hey, don't hit one of my guys because I'm coming after one of your guys. You know, to hear that stuff, especially when you ice your arm out, your arm is like completely frozen. I don't even know how the hell he even threw a ball.
Because when you're pissed, you're gonna hit somebody.
When you saw that, Pat, though, were you like, oh, did you just like run back to the dugout and you're like, I gotta see this?
Wait, man. Oh yeah. Plus, there could be a brawl too, so you don't want to be in
Yeah.
the brawl.
Hey, Pat, did anybody ever charge you, Pat?
Oh man, I got lucky. So I had Mo Vaughn. Nomar Garciaparra owned me. I did something that was really bad. I threw up and into Mo. And you got to remember, Mo was like David Ortiz. He had a big elbow pad. He hung right out over the plate with his, and it literally, you could hit his elbow pad. It was almost a strike kind of thing. And I drilled Mo, and he kind of hesitated. He didn't come out. And then I had one other issue with Chad Curtis when I had to do that. That was to protect my players. We did have a brawl, but it wasn't Chad Curtis. Chad Curtis got hit, went the first. Tim Salmon comes up next. He hooks the ball down left field line for a 2-run dinger. He's running around third, and he looks at Sprague and goes, F you, that's 2. That's what he says to Sprague. And Sprague, I don't know, you guys don't know Sprague. Sprague, he just wants to fight the whole Anaheim team now. He's like saying, yeah, you want something, like that. And then Chad Curtis and the bench is cleared, and he's yelling at their dugout. I didn't throw the ball at him. I didn't hit Chad Curtis. That's what he's yelling. And but I never had an actual guy charge me. I'm thankful that Mo Vaughn did not charge me. He's twice my size. But no, you got to retaliate, man. It's pro ball, man. You got to defend hitters.
Josh, and that's one thing we don't really hear about nowadays. Everyone's like against all that. Like, you hear Bauer's interview about, you got to dish it out and you got to be able to take it, which I understand that. But there comes a situation where there's situations, and Josh knows this being behind the plate, where you have to protect certain guys. And
the game should police itself.
Yeah,
I like the show. I'm not much of the showboating. I kind of go against what Trevor Bauer says. The game should take care of itself. Let the players police themselves. That's how it's always been, and we're slowly moving away. Whether it be the meal money or the guy gets stroked, we don't protect the other guy, or a guy pimps a homer. Just all those things. Like, just let the players police the game, and everybody stay out of it.
Who was the guy that did you ever hold back a guy and you were hoping he didn't charge the mound because you're like, oh shit, I don't want this.
Prince Fielder was trying to kill Tim Burdack one time. Yeah, and I was following. Prince Fielder rolls a ground ball to second. He's running down the line, and I'm kind of trailing behind him. And Burdack starts yelling at him I don't know what for. And Prince hits first base and takes after Burdack. And I grab Prince Fielder. Then remember Casey McGee?
Yeah.
Casey McGee walks up to me and he's like, "Let me take him. This guy might kill you next." I was like, "Okay, he's yours."
Oh, what about talking about showing people up? What about that lefty pitcher for the Reds who had that punch out and then he kind of like taunted the dugout?
Yeah.
Amir Garrett.
Against the Mets.
Amir Garrett.
No.
Yeah,
Amir Garrett.
The Mets.
Amir Garrett is the lefty pitcher.
He punted Rizzo. Like, he punched him out, and then he's like yelling at him, and it's like, I get if it's a big situation, but if you're showing somebody up there like for no reason, like to me, there's a place to like fist pump and let's go, but to do it there and you're looking straight at him, you want something to happen.
Here's a classic example of policing yourself. The other day I saw highlights of the Brave player. He's really good, man. He can really hit it. I think his name's Marcel Ozuna.
Yeah.
Okay. They're losing 7-1. This dude hits a solo bomb in the 7th and does a selfie around first. Like, come on, man. Like, you're losing 7-1. Like, I just in the dugout when I played, a guy like Jack Morris or Clemens, not even Clemens, but more like Dave Winfield would have just grabbed you by the neck and said, "What are you doing, son? Like, we're losing 7-1." When I played with Cal Ripken, he didn't even want a high five until the game was over. And I'm like, okay, now that's a little extreme. Like, I like having fun in the dugout. Like, that's part of the game. I love having fun. But yeah, I remember Ripken going, "Why are you celebrating? We haven't won yet." And I remember thinking, okay, come on, man, that's a little. I played with Cal his last year. That was a little too old school.
Did you tell him that? Did you tell him, "Hey, Cal, come on, line up"?
Hell no. His blue eyes were mesmerizing.
But you got to tell him, like, "Hey, Cal, look, I've won a World Series, Cal. What have you done? Like, come on."
Back to
It's not been the game for 20 years.
Yeah, Iron Man, blah blah blah. Give me a high five, bro.
No, and it's funny, like little lessons like that. I remember my rookie year. Yeah, it was my rookie year, and I remember a hitter lined out, and you know how they walk into the dugout, and usually you pat them on the butt or something. And Lyle Overbay sat me down. He's like, "Hey man, don't pat him in the back." He's like, "Do you want to be patted in the back after you give up a run? No, then don't fucking do that." And I was like, "All right." And never again. After a guy got a hard out, I never did it. And it's true. Like the guy's already pissed because he just pissed on the ball and he got out.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there saying, good job for what? It's an out, you know, and from there on, I never did it again. I was like, that makes sense. Perfect. I respect that. Boom, sit down.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it's like when when guys miss a free throw and everybody gives them a high five. Fool, you missed a free throw. I ain't high fiving you. Like, get out of here. Like, good job. Get out of here.
And obviously I didn't come in and like Pat's talking like these guys were like veteran guys, the Winfields of the world, and you know Devon White and John Olerud, Paul Mullard, or Jack Morris, all those guys. When I was coming up, I was probably the youngest guy in 09. We had a lot of veteran guys, so it was just more you're just learning and little lessons like that. That again, I feel like it's a lost thing nowadays, and the veteran presence isn't valued very much.
Right.
Pat, what are you up to now?
Right now, not a whole lot. I got let go last fall from the Jays with so I'm not right now. I'm not working, and I'm driving my wife nuts. What do you think? That's what I'm doing.
Well, then that means you got to come back on the podcast Tuesday mornings. I think this is the podcast where wives really want the husbands to go do the podcast. It's like, hey, good. Here's an hour and a half where I have some free time for myself. We're there. But the reason I ask is like because I know you were with the Blue Jays organization. Thole played last year with the Yankees in their organization, and you guys are still around baseball coaching as kids. But best advice you can give to 9-10-year-olds right now, Pat? Because everybody's parent is telling them that, you're going to be amazing. You're the number one ranked 9-year-old in the country. Like, your story, and you didn't even pitch in high school until the end.
Yeah, I would say this. Don't specialize. Play all the sports. Have fun. The top 1%, if you're lucky, gets to play pro ball. And out of that group, we're lucky if you get one guy on every minor league team that makes it to the major leagues and stays for more than a few years. So for me, I tell all the kids, work hard, be accountable, and have fun because high school sports goes by so fast that 99% of us can't play after high school. For those of you that can, then the work hard just continues until you're done and they rip the uniform off you. And I think playing all the sports and playing multiple sports, I think playing football and being quarterback in high school for me made me a tougher pitcher on the mound. So I think that it really helped me become a tougher kid is getting walloped on the backside, from a defensive lineman. And so I would say play all the sports and work hard.
It's really simple, right? Like, and the adults, right? Totally, the adults make it so freaking complicated. Now that you're coaching and giving lessons.
Yeah, no, it is very complicated, and I much try to stress the same thing: the importance of playing other sports. I think each sport you learn something from it, and I think the football analogy is the best analogy because that's where I've learned a lot of leadership stuff from my high school football. Other than that, I don't know that I would be the player I would have been, to be honest.
Right.
Yeah, no doubt.
Really?
I got a cool story to tell about Gretzky. I read this real quick. I know we're hurting for time.
No. We're not hurting for time. We got nothing to do. Go for it.
Gretzky said, I read this. He said, I liked baseball more than I liked hockey. And I put my hockey gear away every year and brought my baseball gear out for that season. And when baseball season was over, I put my baseball gear away and brought my hockey gear back out. People think that Gretzky just played hockey year round. He didn't. He also said he loved hockey. He loved baseball because he thought it was a thinking man's game. Because you have a lot of time in between the action to think and to think about what you're going to do with the ball and all that. And also mentally masturbate is what I call it, where you're hurting with your confidence and you're starting to, self-doubt. And he said in hockey, it's just, there's no time to think. There's no time to have a negative thought. It's just bang, the puck's time. So I thought that was an interesting take from a guy who's arguably the greatest hockey player that ever walked the earth.
Damn.
Yeah. That's tremendous. I've never heard that story, but I think more people need to hear that story.
Yeah.
And he's played in the minor leagues.
With the Cubs.
Yeah,
he was a high draft pick out of Oaks Christian here in Southern California. Now, Thole, did you deal with Pat at all when you were the Blue Jays?
Yeah.
So
Pat,
how
you were
did,
the bull-
Yeah, I was.
Right,
I
you were
did it.
the bull-
I was there in 11 and 13.
Right. He was our bullpen coach.
okay, now a stupid question. What does a bullpen coach do?
Just answers the phone, gets the guy hot, tells him who he's gonna face, potentially who he could face off the bench.
Hey.
You're kind of like a pitching psychiatrist too. Like you're trying to help these guys stay confident, especially the guys that don't get to pitch a lot. And the way oh yeah, go ahead.
I have a question for you. For you being a starter, how was it trying to calm those guys down in those 7, 8, 9 inning guys? Like, I mean, not that you have to tell a closer much because they like a Casey Jansen that we had there at the time. He knew what he had to do, so you just say, "Hey, Casey, you're hot. Get hot," or whatever. I mean,
dude, I handed Casey the ball and got out of the way. That's what I did. I don't, he was a great big league pitcher when I had him, man. I just got the ball. What do you need? He'd tell me. I'm not over coaching. That guy can self coach. He didn't,
Hey, you know what the best part was about this, Josh and Beto, is this guy would get the bullpen guys fired up. He has Sarge mentality. So he'd always come in and be like, he'd be like, Rick, listen to what the guys are going to tell you. Because he'd always be like, why is it so tough for you guys to get 3 outs? We get fucking 21. We get 21. Why is it so hard for you guys to get 3 or 1?
Yeah. I remember I told Zepchinski that. Zep, remember Zep? I told Zep, because he was a starter in minor leagues, like, dude, you've been getting 18, 20 outs your whole life. I go, now you got to get 3? I'm like, come on, dude. Like, let's keep it simple, man. Pound it with that slider.
Hey, you would get Casey so fired up, man. I remember Jansen be like, fucking Pat was over there saying, like, what's so hard about getting 3 outs? You guys get 21. And it's like, well, if we go 7 innings, we get 21. If we go 8, we get 24.
You gotta get me and Jansen on this one again. Because we used to go like this.
Oh, yeah, man.
Argumentative like me, and we both were strong-willed personality. We try to stick up. Yeah, it was funny. I love Jansen, man. We have together. He's a smart guy.
It was fun, man, because he would, like I said, again, Pat came from a starter's mentality, so he'd always be like, dude, Rick, like they just don't get it. They get mad because I bring it up and say, hey, it's easy to get, or we just went out and got 21 outs. Well, how hard is it for you to get 1 out, 2 out?
Yeah.
Totally.
I love this one. Here's a 1-out story. Buddy Groom's pitching with me in Baltimore. I go 6 1/3, or I go 6 2/3. He comes in and throws 1 pitch and gets Bobby Higginson to roll over and gets me out of the inning. We go in and he's icing. I said, "You gotta be shitting me, dude! You're icing. You do 1 pitch." And I said, I was just out there. I got 120 pitches. I could barely lift up my arm. And Buddy and I were good friends. I could do that, and he didn't take it the wrong way. That's you got to know who you're talking to before you can do something like. Buddy and I were good buddies at the time.
Yeah, but still, ice? Really? 1 pitch?
Oh yeah, I busting his balls. It was so funny. I'm like, come on, man, you're icing 1 pitch. Yeah.
Totally.
Hey,
I can see Totally as the bullpen coach, getting people fired up.
I'd put my shin guards on. I would have my shin guards on. I'd be the extra catcher. We only have to hire 1 bullpen catcher. You pay me a little bit more, and I'm in. Let's go.
It's funny. When I interviewed with Barry, he said, I never interviewed for a thing in my life. And the GM called me and said, would you put your name in the hat to be the bullpen coach? And I was like, whoa, I'd never coached full time to start out in the big leagues. I was like, holy shit. So I go to interview in Ann Arbor, Michigan with John, and it was just 2 pitchers talking shop, man. It couldn't have been an easier interview. And it went pretty good. And I just remember being a little nervous about it. But yeah, taking that bullpen job, you'd love it, Josh. I think, Ricky, you'd love it too. It's a great job.
I would 100% do it. 100% do it. Yeah. I mean, you gotta have, like you said, you gotta have a good communication with guys, which I feel like I do, and like you said, you gotta keep it fun and stay out of the way. Like you said, stay out of the way. You gotta know who the guys are. That hey, what do you need from me? Boom, that's it. I'm out.
Yeah. Well, you also have to be able to hear the phone ring. We had a bullpen coach that couldn't hear the phone ring.
Come on.
Yeah. It's an inside joke. Everybody knows it was hilarious. Drop bailed us out multiple times. I think he'd be ringing for 5 minutes.
Hey Pat, we had Drop on this
doing this in the dugout.
Yeah.
We had Drop on this podcast, and it was one of the most popular episodes.
Yeah.
Dude. Everyone loved his stories.
I love Drop. Drop was better than an assistant coach for me. Drop was an equal with me. if not more so. He was so experienced. I told everybody back then, they're lucky they have him. He's a hard worker and loyal guy, and he'd do anything for the Blue Jays, and he's a heck of a bullpen catcher, and he could literally be the bullpen coach. I've been saying that for years.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, we had a
easy.
Yeah. Let's see here. Let me go back and look. We had episode 15. So if you guys are new to the podcast, go back and look at it on the iTunes or Spotify. Episode 15. We did this one 2 years ago before COVID. We actually went to Alex Andreopoulos' hotel room. They had just gotten in. And I don't know this guy. I just know that his name is Drop. He's the bullpen catcher. And Ricky's like, you're going to love him. I'm like, why are we interviewing a Greek-Canadian bullpen catcher? He's like, he's going to have great stories. I walk into the room. And he's like, what the fuck are you guys doing here so fucking early? I'm like, bro, I'm like, nice to meet you. It's 11. Yeah. And also, you set up the time. And he's like, wow, what the fuck? I got a great hangover. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be a great podcast. I'm about to edit it a lot. And he's like, I'm just fucking with you. He's like, okay, you're a Mexican too? I'm like, yeah, okay, great. And he's like, oh, my hermano. Yeah. One of the most downloaded podcasts we've had. So it's episode 15. Go back and listen to that one on the Let's Go Ricky Roll on iTunes and Spotify. Fantastic, man. Anything else, Rick?
Real quick, did Dropper tell you a story when he moved into a hotel and check in? They would say he'd get there and they thought he was Alex Anthopoulos, the general manager. He had a massive suite with all kinds of food and all. That would happen.
I did. Yeah, Drop would tell me. Drop would tell me. All, like it would happen quite a few times, right?
Yeah, it happened a few times.
Yeah.
Why not?
I never did that. Of course, he wouldn't say anything either. He'd be like, "All right."
Why not?
Yeah, he would order more.
Yeah.
As you should. All right. So, Rick, anything else?
No, I mean,
we could
for another hour easily.
We could. But we could. But Tole's got to get back on the roof and go build that schoolhouse. He's gonna run out of service right now. But
I gotta go drive his wife nuts. Be like, hey, wait, already? You're done?
This is my last question for you, Pat. Of the teammates that you played with, what's some of the cool memorabilia you kept, if any?
I have bats from my All-Star game, my World Series rings, the Cy Young. I wasn't a huge memorabilia guy. I do have a autographed Maddox jersey behind me. You can't see it. Maddox is one of my favorite players. I do have a Clemens signed jersey when he was with Boston before I played with him. I got a cool Brett Favre jersey because my agent represents Mike Holmgren. And, I wasn't a big memorabilia guy. The guy that collected it all was David Wells. Boomer, who I just saw in Florida. We had dinner and golf, but he's got a ton of memorabilia. Yeah. It's pretty impressive.
That's the reason I asked that, because it's like, Ricky doesn't have much and totally doesn't have much, but it's the stuff that you do keep, it really means more to you. Like, Ricky, I think has... the stuff that he has in his man cave, certain players, like they're the ones that mean to him. And I know Tole's talked about, the paintings that he's going to get sent his way eventually. It will be all right.
Hey, Pat, you threw a no-hitter, right?
No,
never threw a no-hitter. All right.
Two-hitter, finished complete game shutout two-hitter, but that was the closest I ever came.
Pat, if you had thrown a no-hitter, what would you...
I did have a no-hitter into the seventh in Oakland, but the guy hit a line ball down to lead off the seventh.
If you did throw a no-hitter, hypothetically, what would you get your catcher?
You know what, man? I was so not thoughtful. Charlie O'Brien still busts my balls to this day. You didn't give me shit for the year we won the Cy Young, man.
Oh!
I didn't get a bucket.
Oh, my gosh.
I know. Dude, that's embarrassing. I know. Thank God he's a good friend and doesn't bust my chops too bad. But yeah, I didn't get him squat, man. Nothing.
Okay, the reason
I drilled Mo Vaughn that day, and Charlie. I never finished that story. Charlie got drilled later that game. He came in and damn near kicked my ass butt naked in the shower. Because he wore it after I got taken out of the game. Same exact thing. I drilled Mo Vaughn. They retaliated once I got taken out of the game. Like in the eighth inning, I was out of the game, and then Charlie came steaming into me. You motherfucker, like that.
The reason we say that is because Joe Musgrove was on the podcast a couple weeks ago, and he talked about how he got his catcher a beautiful painting of the last out. And so Joe came through, and he's like, he said on the podcast, I'm going to get him a nice painting and there else. Josh, you caught a no-hitter, right?
Yeah.
Whose was it?
And I caught a Cy Young, too. Johan threw the no-hitter, and I caught R.A. the year he won the Cy Young. And I guess the stuff got lost in the mail, but that's fine.
Well, I understand. I don't know about Johan.
Yeah,
Johan has a painting at his house. He said, "Papi, I'm going to send it to you." I text him my address about every other week.
That with the RA, I can understand. I think everyone knows why.
Yeah. The reason I bring that up is because it's a running joke with Thole about, like, you know, hey, is that painting show up? You know, is it here, Papi? Is it, you know, so that's what it is. It's only been 7 years.
Those pictures weren't as thoughtful. They're not thoughtful. You know, Pat wasn't thoughtful, so maybe Johan and RA weren't thoughtful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely could have got something. I don't know. Like I talked about earlier, I didn't give the coach any credit either. You know, players are just.
Well, they didn't throw it. Hell.
Attaboy, Thole.
Catch every game.
Yeah, attaboy, Thole.
Yeah, I love it.
Dude, we bring this up every single week. I'm gonna start saying it in Spanish. That way, eventually, it's gonna get back to Johan, and he's gonna be looking at that picture that he has on his wall. And but you know, let me send it to my friend Thole, my amigo.
Yeah, that might be for Thole. Yeah.
Right. Pat, you know, real quick. I know we said wrap it up, but you're really good, man. Your stories are awesome, and once again, I said we're not gonna talk about current baseball, but where did you play in Venezuela? Because we have a lot of Latino listeners. We have our numbers are growing in South America. I sent it to you guys. So what did you do in Venezuela? I mean, you played there in the 80s?
No, so I would have been there in like 90 and 91.
Oh, shit.
No, 92.
Fuck.
AAA year, I went to winter ball, and then my first big league season, I went back to winter ball. And you can believe that? I spent a year in big leagues, and I had to go back to winter ball. I'm like,
That's
what?
right.
I'm like, what? I got to go back because I only threw 50 innings as long reliever at 92, and then Gillick's like, you got to throw more innings, man. You know, here's starters. So they made me go down. So I was in Barquisimeto. It was beautiful. The weather was unreal. The hotel was beautiful. And I was on the roster when I pitched and off the roster when I wasn't pitching. It was like the Nolan Ryan treatment. I didn't even have to go to the ballpark when I wasn't pitching, man. That was a beautiful place. I brought my girlfriend, who's now my wife. She came down and stayed with me for like a month. And then the second year I went down, I kind of knew what to expect, and I wasn't there as long. But yeah, beautiful, Barquisimeto. And the fans and the stadium, that was awesome, man. You guys ever played there?
Totally did.
I did. Shit's wild. I played in Caracas. Oh my God, it was so much fun. Oh, that's my favorite. Hey, I have to say, other than the playoffs in 15 and 16, that was probably some of the most exciting baseball I've ever played in my life.
100%. I mean, you know they talk about the upper deck syndrome? Go to winter ball. That'll get that out of your way. Because that's like pitching in the upper deck crowd. That's a hostile crowd. They're great, man. They're so loud.
Yeah.
Throw up those plastic cups and do the wave.
Yeah. Hey, Pat, so what they do is they have the whiskey in the bottle, then they drink it, and then they pee in the cups and do it again. Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Really?
True.
That's what they do? I thought they only did that for soccer in Mexico. Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Pat, you're a kid from 8 Mile, go down to Venezuela, like, scared?
No, man. And I did not grow up in 8 Mile. I was trying to yeah.
You grew up in 7 Mile.
15 Mile, man. 15 Mile.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But you weren't scared going down there?
You know what? I was only because of the language barrier.
Okay.
Wasn't scared for any other reason. I'm just not bilingual, and I knew that I was going to struggle if someone didn't help me. But other than that, there was no issue at all.
But
People were great. The women were beautiful. The color skin, wow, beautiful. I mean, I remember thinking the color skin, they're beautiful. Everybody was,
Everybody's just beautiful down there. And the baseball is crazy. They love it. Like, Tole's still a legend down there.
Yeah. Hey, Derek Bell's a legend. He came down there and announced in the paper, hey, I'm looking for my wife to take home. Man, was that Remember, this was before Twitter, man.
Yeah, they were lined up, huh? They were lined up.
The only voice you had was the newspaper back then, right? And he popped off and said that the girls were lined up, man. You were right.
Yeah.
Derek Bell, sly like a fox, boy.
But I'm really curious about that area, too, because you went down there. You said you would get a week-old paper. So you really go down there and you have to perform, because if you don't pitch well, like Thole told the story, if you don't perform, you're gone. So you're basically cut off from the rest of the world, aren't you? Especially
you were like, it was like a couple days delay, I think, at the time when I was there. It wasn't a week. It wasn't It was a day or two, but the point was that, yeah, you're right. It's super competitive, and we all knew that, and we all knew you could set your ass home. You do well. That's another reason why it was a great experience, because you're pitching under pressure with your hair fire in front of a hostile crowd. You know, that was a really good part of my development.
I'm with you, Pat. You'll learn to lock it right in.
You do, and you realize how beautiful we have it in America, and you know, I remember that being a big eye opener for me as a young guy going down there, not really being very experienced in the globe.
That's
great. That's great. I mean, that's what you hear a lot of American guys who go down there and play. They're like, dude, it's just you start understanding the culture. You start understanding why Latin players enjoy being in the big leagues, and why there's, you know, they love to have fun. They're dancing. They're listening to music. Right. This is how over there in the Venezuelas and Dominicans, the Mexicos of the world. It's just they just love life, and they're happy that they're in the big leagues, that they're playing pro ball in the minors. It don't matter. Like you can always tell the Latin guys are always into their music, dancing, and it's a big part of their culture.
There it is. Yeah. There it is. Pat, it was so good that your Baseball Reference doesn't even have any mention of you playing in Venezuela. So, and I'm pretty good at finding everything out, but I didn't find you. You don't exist in Venezuela. So in Barquisimeto, you'll be all right.
Yeah.
There it is. Pat Hentgen, we appreciate it. Do you have social media, anything to promote, or are you just hanging out on your farm?
Me?
Yeah.
No. I have I just have Twitter. I don't do anything. I don't tweet much. I don't. Yeah.
I love it. Keep it that way.
Occasional, like you just see the occasional. I follow. You see the occasional, like I love watching that guy play, like a certain pitcher, or I love watching him pitch. You know, and you just see the occasional Pat Hentgen. You know, his chiming in on something.
I know my handle. I had to look it up. Is that what they call it? A handle?
Stay that way, Pat. Stay that way. Stay that way.
Yeah.
Stay that way.
The handle is what you drink up at the farm on the weekend. That's the handle. How about that other handle?
Hey, Thole, we got you guys. Don't worry about it. We got you.
You have my address.
There it is.
All right, Pat, I loved it. This was awesome.
This was awesome, Pat.
Okay.
Really do appreciate it. Really good, man. Ricky,
thanks,
we'll definitely do this. Well, Pat, we're doing this again. We're gonna call you in a couple. We might even just call you for 5 minutes just to hear one story and then hang up on you one day.
Yeah. Hey, but next time you get Jansen on there, I'll do a sneak in cameo and we'll argue for 5 minutes.
Yeah, let's do it. He needs it too.
I love it.
All right,
Ricky and Pat, don't hang up.
Yeah,
no, Ricky and Thole, don't hang up. Pat, we appreciate you. So all you have to do is hang up on your computer and you're done.
Okay, thanks, guys. See ya.
All right. Hank is gone, man.
Hey,
dude.
I can show you.
Oh, hold on. Oh, okay, good. Go for it. If you're on the YouTube, you can watch.
Live, are we?
Yeah, we're still here. Oh.
No, hold on. I'll show you.
Like he learned how to use it. Oh, that's nice.
No. It hasn't even caught up yet, has it? It's all blurry on my end. Oh, there you go.
There it is.
Let me turn the camera around. I guess you don't let you do that either, do they?
Who spikes?
Shoeless Joe's.
Those are mine, brother.
Those are sick.
Oh, my bad.
Those are the ones I pitched in. Those are the ones I pitched in. For real.
My bad.
I saved them. Look how old school, man.
I love
They
it.
don't make them like this anymore, do they?
Yeah. No, the old Cooper Towns, I think, right?
Yeah,
I mean, like, there's no, God, look at them. They almost look like when I was playing, like an old Spalding. You almost started laughing.
Dude, he's got the dipped toe and everything. That's when you know.
All right, man.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Pat.
All right, Pat. Appreciate it. Dude, how tall is he? Is he like 6'8"? Like that?
Pat? Nah.
Yeah. Dude, that was good. Rick, you were right, man. You were telling me he's going to have some good stories. He's ready to go. That was real good. That was... Look, we did an hour 20 with him. Like, I know he wasn't expecting that.
No, I don't think he was.
Yeah.
He was worried. He texted me yesterday, Josh, and he's like, hey, man, just so you know, I don't know any of the current players, so don't ask me anything about that.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, this was and we're still live. The podcast is still going right now, and everybody that was leaving comments and questions, Green at Bad and Marco, appreciate it. But I didn't want to ask Pat any questions because he was on such a roll. I didn't want to interrupt too much.
Yeah, he's one of the best storytellers I've ever been around.
Yeah,
I would be in tears eating dinner after a game with this guy and just telling stories. Holy shit, I laughed so hard.
I can only imagine having a couple of pops with them and then hearing the really R-rated versions of stories. because somebody said you got to get Casey Jansen on here. So so everybody, we need you guys to go and if you're watching this, post on your Instagram, tag the Let's Go Ricky Roll Instagram page. Go on iTunes, Spotify, rate, review, and just share it. We need you to start telling people how good the podcast is. And I'm not saying this because I'm the host and I'm doing all the work, but damn, I go back and listen to it, like when I'm driving the kids to school or whatever. We have a good fucking podcast. Like, I'm not bragging about it, but it is really, really good because you can listen to so many different baseball versions that are good, but there's nothing like us as just telling stories. And dude, hearing Ricky Henderson and Cal Ripken doesn't want to high five you stories, like you're not gonna get that anywhere else.
The Mike Messina All-Star stories. I always had heard that Cito Gaston was hated in Baltimore, and I always wondered why. And he obviously was there. He knows the story, so that's why I wanted him to retell it. The Roger Clemens story. I mean, that's something you really don't hear, and it's cool, man. I mean, it's like it's crazy, the old school mentality of what it meant to them to protect their players, their hitters, and certain things like that. Like they took it like, hey, it's my responsibility if I'm a starter to make sure that I protect my guys. I mean, his catcher wanted to whoop his ass because and then he's out of the game. And I mean, it's just all that stuff. Like they took it to heart. It was a different era and a different time in baseball.
I miss it.
Yeah. Thole, what do you got coming up this week?
I'm off to Syracuse. Actually, I got to go get my I got to go to CVS. I got to go to Verizon. Then I got to go to Syracuse. And that's it. Then I'm putting ash flooring in. Me and my father-in-law are dialing in the ash floor, and it's almost done. He might be listening right now. He's so excited to tune in while he's laying the ash floor.
Oh, he can watch while see. This is the podcast of the working man. If you're building a farm, we got you. If you're on the beach, we got you.
We got you. If you're in the car, we got you.
Thole, what is an ash floor?
An ash floor, ash trees. All of our ash trees are dying here. We have an emerald ash borer in all the trees, so they're cutting them down. They're milling them for flooring. So we got some.
Ricky, translate. We do get and this is, I'm gonna rip it up here. We do get comments on the Instagram. People send private messages, and I forget to text them to you sometimes, Thole, but they love the addition of Josh Thole to the podcast, especially catchers. You give me advice, all kinds of good information. We love that you're on. I've been tagging your wife on Instagram. That way she can repost for us. So what I've noticed is that we're starting to get East Coast followers from upstate New York. And I'm like,
she's doing a good job then.
We're getting them, but I'm like, these poor yoga ladies or Pilates ladies are like supporting Catherine's husband, but they'll realize it's going to be just a bunch of posts about baseball guys. So we appreciate the followers. Ricky, what's up with you this week? What do you got? T-ball?
We got T-ball on Friday. Yeah. And then just golf. We have our babysitter here the next 2 days. So
God, I wish I had your life, guys. Holy crap, you guys are lucky.
All right, well, we'll send you a picture tomorrow, Thole. I got new beers.
Do that.
All right, everybody. Farmer Thole, Ricky Romero. We'll talk to you guys next week. Thanks for listening for another edition of the podcast. Adios, people.